Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Where's Grace? It's the Library Love Fest team. And Grace, Lee, and I are so excited to speak with you all tonight. Thank you for coming to our next episode of Writers to Watch. Hi, Lainey. Hi, Grace.
Hey,
Howdy.
hello.
We have a very exciting program tonight. We have four wonderful authors who are going to talk to you about their new books. Grace, Lainey, do you have anything to say before we bring on these powerhouses?
I might have something to say, but it's a mystery. I'm just kidding. We have mystery authors, and I'm so excited.
I can't follow up, Lainey. It's just too punny.
All right, then without further ado, because we've got an hour here to talk about books, and we want you to bring your questions for these authors. So here we go. Writers, if you could please turn on your cameras so we can introduce you. Sara Paretsky, Tamron Hall, Anthony Horowitz, and Andrey Kurkov. Hello.
Hello. Good evening from London.
Hello. From Chicago.
Tamron, where are you right now?
I am in New York, hiding from my Bernedoodle and my 4-year-old. Shh, don't tell them where I am.
So Tamron and Andrey are both in New York. Sara is in Chicago, and Anthony Horowitz is in London. And we've been having a great time talking about our favorite adult beverage of choice. And it's been a very illuminating conversation. But that's not why we're here tonight. We're here tonight to talk about your forthcoming books, which is really, really exciting. So you all know how this goes. Everyone says a quick hi, and then we put three authors into the virtual green room, speak with one, and then we'll go around and around, and then everybody comes back. So please have your questions ready for the authors, because this is a really fabulous opportunity. What a wonderful roster of authors. We're so excited to have that. We thank you so much. Is there anything you want to say before we bid you a brief adieu?
It's really great to be in this room with writers that I admire and whose work I know, even if I don't know them personally, and always a pleasure to talk to librarians.
I'll just add that with the world in such a terrible place at the moment, it's lovely to be here talking about something that unites us and brings us together the world over, reading books, stories. It's what unites us and not what sets us apart that matters most.
I'm into that.
Yes, we're into that.
And I just want to mention that my first job after my school in 1978 was a librarian in a workers' sanatorium. But unfortunately, workers didn't read. They mostly drank. And I was usually alone reading what they didn't read.
That's very interesting. Wow, that's that's really interesting, Andrey. Well, we thank you all. And Anthony, Tamron, and Andrey, if you want to turn off your cameras and mute yourselves, and you can listen to Sara as we have her talk about her book. And then we'll be back with all of you in a few minutes. Hi, Sara. How are you?
Hi, Virginia. It's great to see you again.
It's great to have you
Done some
here.
wonderful programs together.
I know it. You have been, oh my God. Do you remember the Carnegie speech you gave at the American Library Association? You tore it down. It was an amazing speech.
Thank you.
Anybody who was
It was an amazing evening with Colin Whitehead getting this Carl Sandburg Award. Yeah.
You have been just such a huge supporter of all of libraries. And it's not, it's, I mean, we've even have you on our sizzle reel. So if you go to Library Love Fest, the first thing you do is hear Sara talking about libraries. And you've just been so appreciative and gracious and lovely and authentic, and we love you so much. So thank you.
Thank you. If you look at my Facebook page, my most recent post is about my own little free library in front of my house, because the Chicago City Council was proposing a bill that would tax little free libraries. Fortunately, we got that shot down, but in Chicago, the fix is always in.
God, the Dukes just always have to be up, don't they? Jeez, that's ridiculous. Okay, well, I was going to say you need no introduction, but I have an introduction to read for you, Sara Paretsky. And then we'll go into your book. So, hailed by the Washington Post as, quote, the definition of perfection in the genre, Sara Paretsky is the New York Times best-selling author of numerous novels, including the renowned V.I. Warshawski series. She is one of only 4 living writers to have received both the Grand Master Award from the Mystery Writers of America and the Cartier Diamond Dagger from the Crime Writers Association of Great Britain. She lives in Chicago with her dog, who's not coming on screen, unfortunately. And we're thrilled to have you here to talk about your book, which is coming out in April, and it's called Pay Dirt. And it's another edge-of-your-seat thriller featuring your legendary detective. And can you talk about the book for a few minutes, and then we'll come back later with questions. But let people know what you want them to know about Pay Dirt.
Thanks, Virginia. So Pay Dirt is in my series about the Chicago detective V.I. Warshawski. When I started writing her, when I created her, we were both young. We were kind of insouciant, and we were really excited about the way that the world was opening up for women with jobs and with really changes in our personal life that hadn't existed in the world that we came of age in. Well, time passed. VI kind of kept her mordant sense of humor and her ability to just take on crimes that no one else was willing to handle, and to maybe just through brute strength and awkwardness, as my high school algebra teacher used to put it, push her way through to a solution. I never had really that, I have that sense of humor, but I've often been crippled by bouts of despair that make it hard for me to connect with my writing, make it hard for me to connect with other people. And in Pay Dirt, I decided to make VI start to confront some of the demons that regularly plague me. In her case, it comes about when a young person is murdered in front of her and she's powerless to stop the crime. Her life spirals out of control. She loses her lover, she loses clients, she even loses weight because she stops eating. And her concerned friends send her down to my own hometown, Lawrence, Kansas, to just get away from it and to watch 2 young college students who she's friends with play collegiate basketball. One of their roommates goes missing. They beg VI to stay on and look for the roommate. They have to get back to Chicago for exams and their practice routes and so on. And she's very unwilling to do this in her kind of demoralized state, but she does. And in the process, she runs headlong into some of the battles that are really ripping America apart today over what is our history? How do we teach our history? Who gets to choose a school curriculum? And all these questions swirl around a crime that has deep roots in Kansas, going back to the Civil War era and to the history of race relations in this country. This book was fun for me to write, actually, in a number of ways. I actually have a PhD in history and had the privilege of studying with legendary Black historian John Hope Franklin. And so I was able to call on that background in a way I usually keep to myself, but through the letters and journals that VI uncovers as she's solving the crime in the current day. For me, the big takeaway of the book, though, is the process that you go through when you're prone to depression to keep going. And these times are so terrifying, and our fragile world looks like it's spinning out of our control. We have to keep going. And that's, for me, what VI does in this book. She shows me, and maybe she'll help other readers who are similarly troubled, know that if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you can keep going, and you can maybe not have a happy ending, but at least reconnect to the friends who give your life meaning.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You really show such a human side to her and what's going on. And as you say, setting this in a different place where she doesn't really know a lot of people, so she's sort of, she doesn't have her usual gang to lean on. So it's yeah, there's so much packed into this book. And well, we'll talk more about it, but that's that's a really powerful and concise uh, description of this book, which really you touch on so many things. And so it's a great book club book too, I think, Sarah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now, Sarah, we're gonna put you into the virtual green room, and you'll come back after the other three authors have spoken. So you just need to turn off your computer. I mean, not your computer, dear God, no, your camera. And now Lainey's next.
Hi, okay, so I'm gonna bring Tamron Hall on camera and then do a quick intro. Hi, Tamron.
Lainey.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm gonna do a quick bio for you and then we'll get right into it. So, two-time Emmy Award-winning journalist and author Tamron Hall is executive producer and host of the nationally syndicated talk show Tamron Hall. Tamron Hall is currently the second longest running Disney-produced syndicated talk show and continues to be one of television's highest rated daytime shows. Tamron's extensive resume also includes hosting Deadline Crime with Tamron Hall on Investigation Discovery Today and MSNBC Live with Tamron Hall. She received the 2015 Edward R. Murrow Award for her segment on domestic violence as part of Today's Shine a Light series. An outspoken advocate for shedding light on domestic abuse, Hall has partnered with Safe Horizon to launch the Tamron Renata Fund in honor of your sister to help victims and families affected by domestic violence. And we are here to talk about your second book in the Jordan Manning series, Watch Where They Hide. It followed the much praised first book, As the Wicked Watch, and Watch Where They Hide comes out March 12th. And Alistair Burke said, with Jordan Manning, Tamron Hall has given us a smart, empathetic heroine to cheer on for years to come. So I can't wait to hear more about the book. Please tell us more.
Oh, lady, thank you so much for that introduction. And I should say, it's so good to be back. It's such an interesting time in my life. My son is in preschool and we've been touring schools around New York. And we had a list of top 5 schools and one fell off the list because it was the only school that did not stop by their library to show us their library, which was so interesting because it is such a point of pride for schools, particularly with young children, and impressing upon them the importance and the love of books and the escapism and all of these things. So we did knock them right off the list. So there you have it. Make sure you stop by the library when you have prospective parents. But here we are again with the follow-up to As the Wicked Watch. Watch Where They Hide is this latest novel with our heroine, Jordan Manning. And I should say I'm a tad bit nervous in that I look at the other authors who are here, and like so much of my life, like so much of Jordan's story, I feel like a fish out of water. It's a pinch me moment. How did I get here? And I say that because As the Wicked Watch was written in my home when we were all confined to our homes. And I was looking for a way to share this story of Jordan Manning, inspired in some ways by my life. I was a journalist, and I am a journalist for 30 years, much of that reporting crime, but also bringing in some of the real life experiences with the view of an author being able to shape this world that Jordan Manning lives in. And so here we are with our second installation in the Jordan Manning series. Jordan is now an established, successful reporter following a crime that she investigated in our first book. But she is at that point, so many reporters find themselves. Once you have a taste of success, are you ready to be an anchor? You're getting the call from the network saying, oh, you have a huge following, your work is respected. Why not leave the field and come behind the desk? It's tempting. More money, more attention, more fame, more power. But Jordan is drawn to the streets. She is drawn to the stories of those who don't get a voice and her opportunity to give them voice. This time around, Jordan receives a phone call from a woman saying her sister is missing. I'll be very honest. Many of you might know my sister's death is still an unsolved crime. And the first question is, was this and is this inspired by those real life events? This story is not. As tempting as it might be to bring in the experience of my own family, I reported and reported on 2 cases over the last 15 years that really stuck with me, involving the disappearance of women. And here we have Jordan, inspired by those real cases, but definitely in her world of a young reporter wanting justice, but also wanting the golden crown of becoming an anchor. And she receives this phone call to investigate the disappearance of a mom. Very different from her. Jordan, her priority is not at this time motherhood. Her priority, a little bit relationship, but most of all, it's her job as a reporter. She receives a phone call, though, that she cannot forget. She cannot forget the cry, the plea of this stranger asking for her help. The complexity of this call is that the missing woman is in Rensselaer, Indiana. Jordan lives in Chicago. So now we see her leave her world in Chicago to explore a very different world, one that involves a woman who is married, a woman who is a mother, a woman who decided to leave her dreams on the shelf to become a mom, to marry the perfect guy. And Jordan finds herself in a situation that I think so many reporters do. Can I identify with this person? And that's what makes a good reporter. Your ability to be objective, but be empathetic. Your ability to say, I have this microphone, this powerful platform, but am I using it the right way? So Jordan, in this amplified world of attention that she's now receiving, decides to investigate this case. Marla is missing. We don't know if it's a hoax. We don't know what's gone on. But what I can tell you is there's deception. There are many secrets. We are in a situation that I think as a reporter, you find yourself in often when you're in front of the camera. How much can I tell the audience? So with Jordan, we go behind the scenes and we see what we reporters hold in that we don't often reveal to you watching at home. And I think there are a couple of pages where you will question, why is Jordan still pursuing this job as a reporter? Her heart is somewhere else. In the first series, she investigated the disappearance of a young missing Black girl. And Jordan is African American. And the assumption is she would see herself in this little missing girl. But can she, a single woman pursuing her career, see herself in the disappearance of this woman? And will that ignite the same passion that we saw in the first novel? And can Jordan track down the answer that this family is begging her to bring to them?
Wow. Yeah, that was great. Thank you. And I'm so glad you talked about all of the background stuff of being a journalist, because what shines through in these books is just your vast experience and what it is like to do all that. I kind of think of journalism as Jordan's kind of superpower, using these things at her disposal to
her superpower, but like so many superheroes, does she really want that power? And that because with that power comes, as we know, the cliche responsibility. Right. Jordan is trying to balance which really is her superpower, her ability to investigate, her ability to get answers, to break the rules as a reporter, or does the power belong with the microphone? And she finds herself questioning whether or not the microphone is as powerful as we believe. And that's the challenge for her. But she's a complex character. She is a unique character. And I think she is someone, when you are reading the pages and when you follow her heart, you will be able to see very clearly what drives a reporter in real life and how this character allowed me to reconcile some of the injustices that I saw every day. And I still see, that we all see, honestly, but in a juicy, and I don't like that word too often, juicy novel that you can cuddle up with a little gin, which is what we were talking about earlier. And I'm not a gin person yet, but at the end of this book, You might be. Let me tell you, you might be.
Thank you. Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
lovely.
Thank you, Lainey.
Can't wait to talk to you more in a little bit, but for now, we're going to say a quick goodbye and welcome on Virginia, I think,
Yes.
for our next author.
Hello. And thank you, Tamron. That was wonderful. And now I will ask Andrey Kurkov to turn on his camera and his microphone. Hello.
Oh,
Thank you for being here. And thank you for not turning off your computer, which I told you to do before, mistakenly. We're thrilled to have you here, sir. And this is just a wonderful opportunity to speak with you. So let me do my introduction first, and then we can go from there. You are called the Ukrainian Stieg Larsson, world-renowned literary master, Andrey Kurkov. You were a journalist, prison warden, cameraman, screenplay writer before finding international renown as a novelist. Your books include the 2022 National Book Critics Circle award-winning Gray Bees, the 2023 International Booker longlisted Jimi Hendrix Live in Lviv, the international bestseller Death and the Penguin. And in addition to your fiction for adults and children, you've become a commentator and journalist reporting on Ukraine for the international media. You live in Kyiv with your wife and your children, your 3 children. Your forthcoming book, The Silver Bone, is a perplexing mystery that introduces a rookie detective, Samson Kolechko, in Kyiv, tackling his first case set against real-life details of the tumultuous early 20th century. This is the first installment in this ongoing series. We'll talk about that more later. This book is a page turner from page 1. It is so you can't look away, and it's got it's hard to read, and it's hard to forget, and you don't want to forget it, and you shouldn't forget it. I turn it over to you now, Andrey, to talk a little bit about The Silver Bone.
thank you. 5 years ago, I received a phone call from one lady in Kyiv who said she has a present for me. And then she brought me a box of original files of Bolshevik secret police VCK. And I always was fond of history, but the history of 1918, 1921 civil war after the Russian October Revolution of 1917 was always incredibly interesting and a mystery for me, because when in Russia there were only 2 armies fighting each other, Red Army and White Army, in Ukraine there were at least 6 armies fighting each other. And Kyiv was occupied by Bolsheviks, by the Red Army 4 times before Ukraine became finally Soviet Republic. So the documents I got were mostly from 1919, from Kyiv. And these were actually VCK, but also police papers. And first I thought of writing a historical novel, because I found out so many interesting daily life details in these papers. But then I decided to write a series of historical crime stories, because I live in the heart of old Kyiv. So for me, Kyiv is actually my favorite city, my favorite place. And this novel starts with actually street pogrom in February 1919, when Kyiv was just taken over second time by the Red Army. And the main character's father is killed on the street. The main character, Samson, he is wounded. His actually right ear is cut off with a sable by the Cossack. And he manages to catch his ear and to run away. And this ear will play a role in the books, because this ear continues to hear whatever is happening next to the ear. So he keeps it in a box somewhere, sometimes in the drawer of the table, sometimes on the bookshelves, but always hears what is happening next to the ear. And he becomes a detective very accidentally, because what happens that as many Kyivites, he is forced to give space in his flat to Red Army soldiers. And the Bolsheviks, actually, when they came, they introduced immediately their new rules and laws. One of them was furniture tax. So, I mean, they just gave the instruction to every family how much furniture they are allowed to have, and all the rest should be taken away for the Soviet offices. So when his father's desk is taken away to the police, he goes there to try to get it back because it is very dear memory to him. And the head of the police, of the new Soviet police actually, he sees a young man who is obviously educated, who can talk well, who can write well, and he wants him to work for the police because nobody else wants. So he offers him to stay and work, and then this desk will become his own desk. So it's like desk of his father is making him a detective. And then he is asked actually to find a crime and to investigate. And he immediately thinks about two Red Army soldiers which are living in his flat and which are bringing every evening stolen things, and mostly silver things. So he starts investigating, and he understands that actually there is some kind of a strange person who orders potential criminals to steal for him only silver, no gold, no diamonds. And this is the beginning of the story, which will have a lot of unexpected turns. Actually, I have already published 2 novels with Samson Kolechka, and hopefully I will be back with a 3rd one by the end of the summer.
Yes. Oh, let's see, is my sound good? You know, that God, what he goes through, there's such uncertainty as you turn the pages. You know, the reader doesn't know what's going to happen next because he doesn't, you know, and it's just it's so atmospheric and tense. I love the relationship that he has with the widow who's trying to, you know, get him a wife so that he doesn't have to leave his home, and these crazy rules that they have about the furniture, which is heartbreaking when he tries to go and get that desk. And I mean, it's really, it's so it's very gritty, and this is a read that really does keep you wondering what is going to happen next. I'm afraid when he leaves that house. I really am. I just don't want him to ever leave. I want him to be safe. But you can smell it, and you can feel it, and you can hear it. I mean, it's also your senses are heightened reading this book, and I'm looking forward to talking to you more about it. I know that a lot of people are going to have questions, so thank you very much, Andrey, for giving us a description of this book. Yep. And Grace is.
All right. I'm going to ask Anthony to come on screen. I don't know if you're.
There we go.
Hello. Hello. Thank you.
Hello to you, Grace.
I know it's a little bit late for you, so I appreciate you being here, and I wouldn't blame you if you were in your pajamas at all.
It's not too late, and it's great to be here in such good company and to be talking to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I feel like you really need no introduction, but you are one of the UK's most prolific and successful writers, and you're in this unique space of being active in both adult and YA fiction, TV, theater, and journalism. Several of his previous books were instant New York Times bestsellers. His best-selling Alex Rider series for young adults has sold more than 19 million copies worldwide and has become a hugely successful show on Amazon TV. His breakthrough murder mystery, Magpie Murders, was adapted into a miniseries for PBS, and he lives in London with his wife and dog. Or is it 2 dogs? 1 dog?
My son's dog is staying with us at the moment.
Oh, okay. I know you
for the moment.
So I also just wanted to read this really great quote from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. They said, "The thing I most like about the mysteries of Anthony Horowitz, besides their smooth writing, skillful plotting, and delightful sense of humor, is this: Horowitz gives you clues. He lays them all out there, and if you are sharp enough and paying attention, you can solve them. I assume. I never have." So I really loved that, and I'm really excited for you to tell librarians more about Close to Death, which is on sale this April.
Well, thank you for that introduction and for that lovely quotation you just quote from the newspaper you just gave me. Well, Close to Death is the fifth book in my series with a detective called Daniel Hawthorne. The first one was The Word is Murder, The Sentence is Death, then A Line to Kill, Twist of a Knife, and now Close to Death. And Hawthorne, if you haven't read them, these books are all incidentally standalones. And Hawthorne is an ex-policeman fired from the police force following the death of a suspect, possibly at his hands, and is now a private detective. And the books, the series began when he had a bright idea. He wasn't earning enough money as a private detective, so he thought maybe if somebody wrote books about him, he could sell the books, and the writer and the detective would split the money 50-50. And where things go a little bit into what is called, I think, metafiction, is that the writer he chooses to write the books about him is me. So I am actually inside the books. This has an interesting effect, because normally in a book, especially in a sort of a twisty murder mystery of the sort I write, the author is the cleverest person. Conan Doyle, Agatha Christie, they know exactly not only who is going to be killed and who kills them, but where the murder is going to take place, what all the clues are. They know everything before the book begins. But in these books, because I am the sidekick following Hawthorne, I am always 5 steps behind him, and I know nothing. I become the most stupid person in the books. We don't have a great relationship, I must be honest. He's a difficult man to get along with. He has some political views I don't approve of. He's homophobic, for example. He's quite mean to people. The worst thing, though, is he calls me Tony. I do not like being called Tony. And in this new book, Close to Death, the close in question is actually a gated community, what we call in London a close. I guess you have this in America too, where a number of people are living together in beautiful houses. There's a barrister, there's a doctor, there's a chess grandmaster, which is unusual, a dentist who is also a celebrity dentist. A lot of his patients are famous people. And two of my favorite characters are 2 ex-nuns, elderly ladies, living together in a little cottage. And they also run a bookshop in this area of Richmond, actually, just on the edge of London, by coincidence, where I am talking from at this moment, where I live. So these 2 ex-nuns have a bookshop that only sells golden age crime, only crimes bookshop, only books that have no swearing, no violence, no hard-boiled detectives, but just golden age elegance. The shop is called the Tea Cozy, and I'm afraid to say I don't think they would stock Sara Paretsky for one. Anyway, into this close comes a new family, Giles Kenworthy, a hedge fund manager, with his wife, his 2 really quite unpleasant children. And what follows are parties, parking on the grass verges, a VW camper that won't move and is always there, a barbecue that belches smoke over everybody, a lot of noise. He's very inconsiderate. He is racist as well. He is not a pleasant man. And by chapter 5, he is found in his house with a crossbow bolt through his neck, and it is clear that somebody in the close has done this to him. So what we have here is basically the classic nightmare neighbor situation, where, as the cover says, everybody in the story has the same motive. And as I say, this is the 5th book in the series. It's I'm in it once again. We learn a little bit in these books. Every single book, we learn a little bit more about Hawthorne, and there are some big clues now about what has made him into such a difficult man. And that really is the pitch. That is the story. I will say this: it is the only murder mystery I think that's ever been written where the solution comes halfway. But having said that, the ending will still, I think, surprise you.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of love coming in for your novels in the chat, so I know people are very excited for this. And Virginia, I think we're having everybody come back on, right? Lainey, Virginia, yeah? Everyone coming back on?
Everyone is coming back on.
I think I might have had a bit of a delay.
Yeah. That is great. Boy, oh boy, you've all just painted a perfect picture of what your books are without giving away too much, which is always a little tricky. And the comments are coming in fast and furious on Crowdcast and on Facebook. And we have some questions here, and so we're gonna get right to it. We have some questions of our own. So let's see, Grace on Crowdcast. I think we have a question from Jennifer Winberry.
Yeah, for Anthony, how hard is it to write yourself as a character?
Well, the first thing I would say is that everything I write about myself in these books, now I'm only the sidekick. Don't forget, these books aren't about me. They're not like an ego trip. My publishers, when I pitched the idea to them, were really worried I was going to either, do a bit about what a great writer I am, or how many books I've sold, or making nasty comments about my enemies, that sort of stuff. But I'm only the sidekick, and I am what I am in the book. I mean, writing this sort of silly, everything is true. Everything I read about me is true. So it's not that difficult. And I am, if I wasn't a detective mystery, I would be completely useless. I would be unable to solve it. So even that is true, the sort of stupidity of it. So it's not that difficult, really. I just look in the mirror and put it in the book.
Okay.
And I am what I am, not that difficult, really. I just look in the mirror and put it in the book. Oh, I just heard myself again. That's odd.
Okay.
And I am what I am, not that difficult. When I just look in the mirror and put it in the
There's
book.
some feedback. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good now.
We have a question for that applies to all authors, and Andrey, since your character will be a recurring character with more books in the series, I think this is a question that we can ask for everyone. How do you maintain character continuity as you continue writing your series? Tamron, do you want to go first?
Oh, thank you. For me, honestly, Jordan is so front of mind because I am still currently in the throes of being a reporter, and hopefully for a few more years. Much of her journey, though, as I said earlier, is inspired by cases that I actually covered. I'm currently working on the third book in this series already, and each case, they feel, and if I think too much about them right now, can bring me to tears, can bring a level of anxiety in some cases. And so to keep the continuity and the direction of Jordan is to keep my peace. So it makes it very easy. Jordan makes thinking about cases that I've covered a bit easier. And I'm able to use her almost as much as I use my therapist, which is weekly, as a way to address some of the things that people in my profession don't discuss, which is what I pointed out, I think, the last time. What does it feel like to suddenly arrive on the scene a few minutes before police and see a body still there in a pool of blood? I've had that experience waiting for the first responder to get there who was prepared for this. But I was a 22-year-old reporter on the south side of Dallas, Texas, in a neighborhood at 4:30 in the morning with just my cameraman. So with Jordan, I'm able to keep a consistent character and use her in this way. So she's never far from, I never struggle to find Jordan. I never struggle to find a way to put her in these scenarios because she's there and she's helping me, quite honestly, along the way. I have to take an idea from Anthony and put myself in the next book so that I can have the interaction with Jordan to ask her a few questions.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. Sara, do you want to answer that question as well? How do you keep the continuity?
There's heavy breathing going on next to me right now. She just got back from a walk. So I hope.
I'm assuming you're referring to your dog.
Yeah, sad but true. Yeah, my social life revolves around my dog. I had to buy a bed today, and my first question was, for my elderly arthritic dog, is it low enough to the ground that she can jump onto it?
Aww.
But continuity in my character, continuity in the series, has to do with only writing about things that I care about personally. So that when you have a long running series, as mine is, you can fall into a sort of paint by the numbers mentality. You start here, detective does this. Instead, I look for stories that matter to me personally. And I don't have Tamron's hands-on experience with blood in the street, for which I guess I'm grateful. Maybe it makes my books a little less realistic. But at the same time, the things that my detective struggles with are the things that an ordinary person struggles with: paying the bills, what's for supper, when you live alone, how do you keep loneliness from swallowing you up? And so those personal questions are what make me keep wanting to go and explore this character more and delve in. The crimes, in a way, are secondary to the personal stories that grow up around the crimes.
Yeah, you've talked about her evolving over time too, and you know how you sort of when you first started and created her, she wasn't the damsel in distress, and she wasn't the, you know, the victim. She wanted to do this. I thought there was a very interesting interview that you did about sort of the trajectory of her, I don't know, just her being and how she is in this field. I don't know.
Well, it's one of the things that I love about how Tamron approaches Jordan too, is these are women who are doing a job because they're good at the job and they want to do it. And so often these days in crime fiction, women are terribly abused and beaten up, and they go into doing detective work in order to have a sort of a cathartic experience to recover from their trauma. And I think it's important that we see women doing work that they're called to do, not work that they're victimized into doing.
Right, right. Andrey, your the Silver Bone is the first in the series,
Yeah,
and Samson is coming back. I believe the next one is The Stolen Heart, which is coming out
yeah.
June 2025. So I'm thrilled that he'll be back. Do you want to talk about this? I mean, I know it's
Yeah,
really
I think I'm in a very good position in the sense that uh, Samson is becoming a detective, so he learns with each case. He evolves. On the other hand, I know what was happening in Kiev in these years, week by week. So, I mean, of course, the historical real events will influence the situation, the story. And in this sense, he will become more and more professional, and he will have more and more doubts and questions about his activities, about the crimes, about the society, about the Bolsheviks, and then when they are replaced by another power, about others. So I think for the next several novels, I definitely don't have a problem with continuity of Samson.
right, right. Sadly so. Andrey, there's a question for you from Sheila, who says, I really loved Gray Bees. Sarah was talking about this before, in part because Boris Dralyuk, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Draluk, yeah.
Dralyuk, thank you. In part because Boris Dralyuk is so good. I hope you were as happy to have him translate the new book as I was. Will he hopefully be translating the next Samson?
He has translated already the second Samson book. So I'm very happy to have such a translator, especially if you keep in mind that he was born in Ukraine, in Odessa. And he's a wonderful poet himself, an essayist. So I hope we will work together for many years to come.
Lovely, lovely. Lainey, Grace, we have questions, yes, for our fellow authors here.
Yeah, we do. Oh, sorry, Lainey.
Go for it, Grace.
Okay, let's see. For Sarah, would you suggest that a patron who has not read any of the VI books could start with this one, or do you recommend starting earlier in the series?
I try to make all the books stand on their own so that you don't need to know the details of VI's history or the people around her. And especially in this book, since she's kind of a fish out of water in a small Kansas town, they definitely could start here.
Thank you.
Okay, I think there's a couple of questions for Anthony. I think some of them we've sort of answered about characters, but Lainey, Grace.
There's one, Anthony, for the Hawthorne series. It says the audiobooks are spot on. Do you have any input when it comes to narrator choice?
Of the audiobooks, we're very, very lucky that we had Rory Kinnear. I assume that those are the same recordings that you get over the water. I don't, to be honest with you, have any connection when my books are published in America. Obviously, because of a distance, I am less involved. Over here, my publishers presented Rory to me. He's a very, very well-known and a terrific actor, and he does the books quite brilliantly. I think that all of us are so dependent now on great actors reading our works, unless any of my co-authors here are brave enough to do it themselves. But I listen to him doing it, and he brings every character, including me, to life. And it's so weird to listen to an actor who is me reading in my words in his voice. But I think he's better at me than I am.
Know about that. You're pretty good at you.
Well, I've had a lot of practice, so many years.
Wow, that can't be. We have so much love. We're on Facebook, we're on Crowdcast, and Sara, I just wanted to know if you could go back to just talking about putting VI in Kansas, where you grew up, and what was that like, dealing with the issues of race and how Kansas came into the Union as a free state in 1861. There's so much history in this book. There's so much packed into all of these books. But I just wonder if you could talk about it for a second, and then we'll go around and we'll ask everybody one last question, I think.
Well, writing Pay Dirt, in some ways, I talked earlier about the ways in which it was a fun and positive experience, but it also came out of a lot of, I don't know if Ron DeSantis is listening, it came out of a lot of shame over the history of I learned that coming into the Union as a free state did not mean that they were anti-slavery. It just meant they did not want slavery in Kansas. That was something they didn't teach us when I was in primary school. And then 3 years ago, I came on a book by a historian named Campnis, I believe it is, Campnis. And he had documented that in Kansas between 1865 and 1935, there was a lynching at least once a week somewhere in the state of Kansas. And that really forced me to go back and start studying what the history of my home state really had been like. I mentioned that I had the privilege of studying with John Hope Franklin. He was a child during the Tulsa race riots of 1919, but he lived nearby. His father was a civil rights lawyer who was one of the first responders trying to help the local African-American community, and also, as we all know, unsuccessfully trying to sue for damages. And so that history already was undercutting the way that I saw us talking about white Americans talking about race in America. And so this book was kind of my own effort to try to confront some of those issues, and yet to do it in the context of a story that people can enjoy reading. It's not a political rant. It's an exploration. It's a journey, and I hope that people will go along with me on it. Maybe it'll raise questions. Maybe it'll raise ire. I have a whole email file of furious letters from readers, so maybe that file will be expanded as people read this book. We'll see.
Yeah. A lot there, a lot to unpack. Okay, how are we doing?
Good. Question for Tamron. What can readers expect to learn about the central character of Jordan Manning in this sequel?
I think you will learn more about what drives her, picking up on what Sara said about her character and Jordan, and this common thread of being compelled to follow this journey versus being pushed into this journey by trauma. And so we see a little trauma in Jordan's history, but it's not what has brought her to this point. And I do believe it's a natural question whether currently, to the point that Anthony and Andrew made about the world and what we're all watching on our news every day, you wonder about the reporter who decides. I have a colleague, for example, who's a mom of 3, and she's in Israel right now while her children are watching her on air. What compels someone to choose this job? Much like we ask, for example, with military service, and my father was in the military for 30 years. With Jordan, she's a street reporter. You know, there doesn't come a pat on the back usually for the street reporter. We applaud our war correspondents, but the street reporter, you wonder why does this person do this? Why do you care what's happening on a street corner in the south side of Chicago? That's the place we stay out of. So what pushes Jordan into this space? And now what is literally driving her to this rural area in Indiana to care about a woman that she has no connection to? And I believe that we learn much more about this desire to right the wrong for Marla in this case, as we saw the desire with our first installation of the Jordan Manning series.
Thank you. All right. Lainey, you had a question.
Yeah, for Andrey. So why, in the Silver Bone, why did you choose for the character to lose an ear, and will he have any other magical body parts?
Well, I use a lot of small surreal or magical elements in my other novels. And of course, there is a personal story because my mother and my grandmother were doctors. My grandmother was a military surgeon during the Second World War. I grew up in a house with a huge medical library and with beautifully illustrated surgical atlases and books, which were much more interesting than books for kids about Lenin and about young Bolsheviks and communists. So I do have a lot of medical fantasies, and I think the ear, which exists on its own and continues to function, it's a wonderful instrument which can help Samson to solve a lot of crimes. So he learns slowly how to use it, how to plant it somewhere in order to find out what he needs to know to sort out a problem.
Love that. Sometimes I
I
wish I could do that.
I like that at first he doesn't know where that sound is coming from. It's sort of everywhere. And then he has to put it in a box, and then he has to put the box in another box. And it's just, it's a great use of, I mean, you know, with such a heavy book, it is wonderful to have that magical realism in there. You know, Andrey, I just wanted to ask you if you could talk a little bit about the experience of expanding on this writing project and what it's like to write during this war.
Well, in fact, actually, after the beginning of the full-scale invasion, I couldn't write fiction for 18 months. I had already 70 pages of the third novel ready before 24th of February 22. And then I was writing only nonfiction and articles until last August, when I managed to force myself to get back to this novel. And in a way, it's sort of easy to think about this novel because the story happens in similar time when Russia is trying to destroy Ukrainian independence. During the war of 1918-1921, Russia managed to do this. So, I mean, Ukraine, which was announced independent in 1918, didn't survive as an independent state. It became part of Soviet Union. And now, actually, Russia is trying it again. And what is incredible that in 1918, the Red Army entered or tried to enter Kyiv from the same northeastern part as in 22.
Wow.
And in October, 10th of October this year, the same streets in old part of Kiev were shelled as they were shelled in 1918 by the Russian General Muravyov and the Red Army. So, I mean, when I write about 1919, I keep in mind today's situation, and I'm following actually all the news, of course, but it's the same struggle, and I'm sure with different ending, with much happier ending, but it is a very dramatic time for Ukraine. And I should say that majority of Ukrainian writers cannot write fiction now, as I could not write fiction for 18 months, because you just feel guilty. Because, I mean, it's not relevant. People don't read novels when there are explosions and air alarms, alerts, and missiles flying. So, I mean, to write fiction and to read novels, you need concentration, you need stability and quiet, which doesn't exist anymore. And of course, I mean, it didn't exist in 1919. But I know so much now about that time, so it's very easy to compare both tragedies. For example, in 1919, 1918, people who lived in central part of Kiev, they were removing the names of the streets and numbers of houses so that the new invaders who are not from Kiev couldn't trace the inhabitants of Kiev, because every power would come with its own blacklists and addresses of people to be shot, to be arrested, to be detained and questioned.
It's just so sobering, and history repeating itself. It's just really so awful. I think we have time for, I think there might be one more question for Anthony, and then we're going to have one question for all of you. Do we have one question for Anthony?
Yeah, I have a question. So for those who have perused your website like me, you talked about finding inspiration everywhere, including walks with your dog. And, you know, this novel takes place in this picture perfect community. So I wanted to know, were you taking a walk with your dog through a gated community and, you know, saw the manicured shrubs and were like, what if someone died here? So where'd you get the inspiration for this one?
Well, it was more or less like that, because I live very close to the River Thames. If I look out of the window to my right here, I can just about see the river in the distance. And I do walk down with the dog every single day. And I use the walks as a time to get away from my desk, to exercise myself. My wife gave me the dog years ago. She said to me, every writer should have a dog, because this is the only piece of exercise equipment you cannot ignore. You can have a gym membership, you don't go, but the dog demands a walk every day, twice a day, 3 times a day. So I go out and I think about things. And having moved to Richmond, I did think it was an interesting area for a story, because it is so beautiful and so peaceful and quiet. And I like the idea of a close because it's an enclosed society, a gated community with a gate that actually closes, and it's got a sort of a sense of of everybody being compressed together. So it seemed like a good idea for it. And I looked at a couple of closes in the area, and in fact, in the end, I do acknowledge him in the credits. I live quite near the writer Michael Frayn, who is absolutely one of our greatest playwrights and writers. And I told him I was having trouble with this book and I couldn't find the location. He said, "Look over the road. I think there's a close there that might just suit you." And it was absolutely what I've been looking for. It was perfect. And I've taken that close, I've moved it about 100 yards down the road to a different location, but I've kept the sort of layout of the houses. I don't know about the other writers in this picture, but I do find it a lot easier to write about places I know, places that I've been to, places that I've seen. And inspiration is all around me. I mean, it's taken me the whole of this talk to realize that Grace and Virginia are both talking to me in front of exactly the same backdrop. And it sets in mind immediately a murder mystery story, because are they in fact in identical rooms, which would be interesting in itself, or obviously, or is it more likely they've got back projection? So where are they really, and what are they hiding? These are the sort of things that get me going with a murder mystery. Indeed, all the rooms, if you think about it, here are 4 writers, all of us giving you a little sneak into our writing lives. And I'm fascinated to look behind them at the picture there, behind Tamron, and wonder who painted that. I wonder if Andrey, where is he? Is he in a hotel room? It does look a bit like it. I love guessing. I love, that's how inspiration starts for me.
Andrey, what did you say?
I said, I'm in the university apartment, so it looks like a hotel.
Yeah.
And it feels like hotel, yes.
And I've got a bunch of laundry behind me if I took
That's
this.
what I was gonna say. I'm in the bathroom.
Okay, we're gonna wrap up if we can all sit tight for just a couple more minutes because we have Jill Brubaker has a question for Sara. Did you make VI part Italian to indulge your own love of Italian food, wine, and shoes?
So my ancestry is all from the cold countries, from Lithuania, Poland, Germany, United Kingdom. And I wanted VI to have some warmth in her life. So, and I guess singing is my hobby, and there's a lot of beautiful music sung in Italian. And so I gave her that. Her mother is a way better singer than I will ever hope to be, even if I was 40 instead of 70. And then she gets the food and the sun and the passion, and that I don't associate with my own heritage.
Okay, we have Conchetta Caparucio, maybe, who just says, I just want to thank all of you for taking the time to do this. I love words, especially words that form books. And I think that I think everybody on the screen and everybody who's watching feels the same way. Lainey, you had one last question that you thought would be wonderful to sort of ask of everyone.
Yeah, I thought we might end on a little bit of a higher note. So there's a lot going on, as we've seen in this conversation, a lot going on in the world. So I just wanted to know what brings you all joy. It could be a thought, a dream, a book, I don't know. But what brings you joy? Do you want to start, Tamron?
Oh, so we would be here forever. There's so many things. There's not one thing to bring me joy. I will tilt up. The book is Watch Where They Hide. And I received this, Anthony, many, many years ago. These are the eyes of Maya Angelou, Coretta Scott King, and Oprah Winfrey hiding in a heart. It was gifted to me. So watch where they hide. You never know what's watching or who's watching. So that's behind me. And it was a gift from Chef Art Smith and his husband. You know, so many things make me happy and bring me joy. Today, I had a scoop of ice cream that was named in my honor, Tamron Holiday Ice Cream, from our local creamery, who gave us that moment. My dog's breath a few minutes ago before we started the Zoom, unmistakable odor, but it just brought me joy because she's so messy and so sloppy and just all these things. And I love that she's this cute, designer Bernedoodle, but she is just a mess. And I love that. My 4-year-old son, whom I've referenced earlier, Moses, was behind the door and I could hear him in his volume going up. And I just text someone saying, can you please don't let him break in? Just the balance of life and being on a Zoom call like this. As I shared before, I'm a kid from Luling, Texas. There 1,200 people born in my entire town. I mean, from my entire town. I was the only kid born in the town that day at the only hospital. And to be in rooms and spaces and places with the librarians who are watching, with the phenomenal authors who are here, those things just bring me joy. So from the scoop of ice cream to the scoop of all of the new books, it makes me happy, and I'm happy that the list is long.
And I would like to just say one thing, Tamron, because the last time that we were together and you were speaking about your first book, I was sort of kicking myself because we signed off without saying, just how sorry we all were and still are about your sister, and what a role that plays in your life and in your I'm assuming your writing, and anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge that and let you know that we all, we're thinking of you.
Thank you. Thank you on so many levels for that, Virginia. I appreciate you so much, and Grace and Lainey, I love you all. Thank you. And we have never been in the same room, but I can put a little Zoom library behind me and it will be like we're all in the same room.
Would be very cool. Who would like to answer that question next?
Well, I can try. I love mushroom picking. So going in the autumn in the woods and just walk around and pick the edible mushrooms and then actually cook them because I love cooking and cooking brings me joy also.
Love that. Love that. And, you know, there's so much going on in the world, Andrey. And so that's just a lovely giant step back and just to take care of yourself. And that's just beautiful. Thank you.
I wrote a list while everyone else was talking. I got it here.
Okay.
I sort of agree with Tamron. I mean, so many things bring me joy, but here was just a rough list as people were talking. Magic tricks. I love magic tricks. Automata. They're little toys. They're all around me. Tintin. You can see the rocket behind me. Dogs. Of course, all of us connected by dogs. Walking with dogs. Sunsets. Going along the River Thames. The swans, the herons, the geese. My new grandson gives me joy. He's only 3 months old. My work gives me complete joy. Having new ideas. Getting new books in my hands. Meeting new people. Andrey, Sara, and Tamron have all given me joy this evening. And most of all, chocolate. So that's my thing to give me joy.
I love that. Congrats on your grandson. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
So I guess I'm the caboose and what everybody said except mushroom picking. I don't know one mushroom from another except when I buy them in the grocery store. I would be terrified to be in the woods picking mushrooms, or at least eating what I'd picked. Maybe not terrified to be picking them. I'm definitely with Anthony with chocolate. Small things bring me joy. It's not the big things that bring one joy. During lockdown, everyone on my street started coming out at 6 p.m. and singing. We would pick a song and we would all sing. And you didn't have to be a good singer. You just had to show up. And 5 of us still, 3 years later, we don't come out every night, but when we can, we try to do it once a week. We come out and we sing together, and it's just a wonderful way to unwind. I've learned songs that everybody knows who knows show tunes, but I didn't know. So my current favorite is from Annie Get Your Gun. I've got the sun in the morning and the moon at night.
Lovely.
That's
Well,
a
I
great.
want to tell you
Oh,
that.
sing it for us.
Say what?
Sing.
Yeah, they want you to sing.
Oh. Got no diamonds, got no pearls, still I'd say that I'm a lucky girl. I've got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. I'm not going to go on unless everyone joins in.
Yay!
Bravo, bravo.
I just want to tell you in the chat, Monica said these authors bring us joy right now for sure.
That's lovely.
Great.
And that is true. And I think that I was thinking that, like, what brings me joy this tonight, being with Lainey and Grace, being with all of you and having you share your stories about your stories. So I think I think it's a good way to end. Lainey, great call on that question. Good way to end this. And we wish you all happy days and peaceful nights and safe nights. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with everyone here tonight. And just one last time, Andrey Kurkov, The Silver Bone goes on sale in March of 2024. Tamron Hall, author of Watch Where They Hide, goes on sale March 12th, 2024. Anthony Horowitz, Close to Death, April 2024. And Sara Paretsky, author of Pay Dirt, April 2024. So we've got some great, a lot of time to download, read, and love these books because they're just wonderful. So great spring books, and we're talking about them now. Happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate that, and our very best to all of you. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia, for
Good night,
putting that
everyone.